So, Jonathan Masters, educational theory continues carrying on. See, the difference between me and every other teacher in America is I actually want to teach you something that's interesting, and I actually want to provide you something that's useful that you could use in life, and I want school to be exciting and fun, a wonderful adventure, a place that you want to come and talk about the different issues of the world. But the Julie Chancellors and Elizabeth Rogers and the 80% of the white women that run education systems, they don't actually want to make it a real education place. They want to separate you from your reality, right? So if you're homeless, they don't care that you're homeless. They might give you a biscuit or something when you first come in, but they're going to kick you right back out at 3 o'clock and say, go back out in this world and try to fend for yourself. 6-year-old. Go fend for yourself, 6-year-old. If you're getting beat up and stuff, what does it matter if you get, you get good grades at the school? If anything, if you're in a violent, child abusive situation, the school only pushes that oppression even worse. They use that as a tactic to control and manipulate you because that's the only thing that teacher training school, Spalding University, that's all they care about. That is all they care about. So, right now I'm doing all these. These are the different. I got 11, right? It was 10. 10 was a nice little number, but I had to add self-education because self-education is the most powerful form of education. And right now I'm going to talk about each one of these in depth, and then I'm going to have like a little list of all the principles and ideas of all the things that I want to do. So this video is for the Summerhill Sudbury Schools, and we're going to get right into it. Okay, so there's a Summerhill movie. Watch that movie. It's an incredible experience. You actually get to see, what's up, what's going on. It was founded in 1921, and it's still ahead of its time. It was founded 20 years ago, and it's still in front of everybody. It's genius. It's the ideal. Okay, they believe, whereas Waldorf believes in stretching you but not breaking you. Summerhill is just like pure freedom. Pure freedom. You want to lie around and play video games all day? Everybody makes choices, and every day everybody has to get up and make different choices about what it is that they want to engage in and what they want to do. And those choices have consequences, and they got to weigh out priorities, what this thing, that thing, and then they go through the day. Do they want to engage in dialogue, socializing, different projects? So these are hard decisions to make by itself. But traditional education is just saying shut up, sit down, be obedient, 100% compliance. Teach like a champion. That's all they care about. 100% compliance. They want you to be manipulated for the rest of your life. That's all they care about. So let's see. A.S. Neil Summerhill, founded in 1921, still ahead of his time. The Summerhill School, a co-educational boarding school in Suffolk, England, the original alternative free school. So A.S. Neil is the educational theorist. Each one of these has an educational theorist backing them, right? The Rudolf Steiner's for Waldorf. Rudolf Steiner's for Waldorf, and then Maria Montessori's for Montessori. Reggio Emilia is somebody, probably. Okay, so Summerhill Schools, independent British boarding schools founded in 1921 by Alexander Sutherland Neal. The belief that the school should be made to fit the child, okay? Not just follow the child, but fit the child, rather than the other way around. It was run as a democratic community. Oh my God, real democracy? There's real democracy actually in this world somewhere. The running of the school is conducted in the school meetings which anyone, staff, or people may attend, in which everyone has an equal vote. These meetings serve as both the legislative and judicial body. So that's interesting. They're the legislative and the judicial body. So the town hall meetings are both. That's significant because the judicial body in America has run amok. Okay, they're the ones that have the police and the prisons and the judges, and they do whatever they want to do, really, without the permission of the executive or the legislative. And really, how does the executive and legislative even get their ways? Really, like they control the budget, right? So they control the budget strings. But if a rogue sheriff wants to just do as they please, in Eastern Kentucky, you got these sheriffs who's arresting the judge executives. Sheriffs are arresting judge executives. How's that possible? He's the executive branch. The sheriff is what branch? I don't know. What branch is it? But the county attorney had believed in that. So, the county attorney, the judge, the cops, the sheriffs, they're their own separate things. So the judicial branch has totally gone to a different way, but they're going to make the judicial and the legislative as part of the town hall meeting. And I think actually that does sort of, it brings out all the issues of everybody and it puts it right there in front of everybody, and then people can sort of, you know, I like that. There was a Summerhill movie. Watch the Summerhill movie. This kid, he clearly is in the wrong. He clearly goes into the another person's room and takes their money, and then they report that they had seen him. So 2 eyewitness statements. They said that he did it. And then they should have actually looked on this person to see if he still had the money on him, so that way he could just give it back. But then they had went ahead and said that he was given 2 weeks or so to pay for it, and he was like, "Oh no, you know, I didn't do it." And then he gets mad and he pushes the little kid, and everybody's like, "I'm so worried about that kid. I wonder what's going to happen to him." And so there was that sort of judicial process, and like I like that because the kid was clearly, you know, in the wrong, and he's an asshole, and he's robbing people, and he's like pushing people down. And the judicial process had seemed to work. There is a, you know, in front of people though, you know, this could get, I don't know, I think it's better actually in front of the whole town instead of just off to its side, because when it's off to the side, you don't know what's going on. When it's in front of the whole town, then you can kind of say, whoa, this is you know, this is just a wild witch hunt. You're being like McCarthy. There's some McCarthyism going on. He's a communist. He's a communist. He's a communist. Because of my ideas, you're gonna, you know, throw me in jail because of my ideas. Get out of here. So yeah, I like that idea. The town hall meeting of being both the judicial and the legislative body. Members of the community are free to do as they please, so long as their actions do not cause any harm to others. Which is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. That's the noble savage. It's according to Neil's principle: freedom, not license. Right? You can do what you want, but you can't hurt others. So freedom, not license. Extends to the freedom for pupils to choose which lessons, if any, they attend. So they don't have to attend the lessons, which is fascinating, right? There's something fascinating to that, because I feel like you have to get credit for your freedom to do what you want, but if you get sick of the classes, then I guess, yeah, you should be allowed to withdraw from the classes, but you have to be doing something else, right? So I don't want to be learning this because I'd rather be learning this, and I don't feel like this class is actually pushing that way. And you want to get credit for all the work that you do, so that way you walk out with a person that has marketable talents, that is more, you know, that has transferable skills, that is more marketable to the world. So that way you can say, hey, look, you know, I am a qualified person that can not just read and write, but I can weld and do plumbing, I can do electric work, and I can do computer work, and I can do landscape, and then I can do you know, scientific experiments and botany and medicine and law, and I've got all these talents and skills, so that way it makes you more of a marketable person out in this world. So let's see, carrying on. This is from Wikipedia. There's a whole bunch of history, philosophy, academics, reception and legacy, conflict resolution, educational structure. All these are really good stuff. Let's see, let's go check out notable former pupils. I don't know any of them, so really nobody famous comes. Conflict resolutions. There's 2 main methods of resolving conflicts. At Summerhill, in the first instance, one should go to the ombudsman to resolve a conflict. The ombudsman are an elected committee of older members of the community whose job is to intervene in the disputes. So that's important, right? I think that's really important. The person, if you have a complaint, like that I just learned about this, but if you have a complaint in American society, you have to get a police officer, and the police officer has to look at the situation and say, yeah, that's wrong. If the police officer doesn't do it, then you have to go to the commanding officer. If the commanding officer doesn't do it, you go to the county attorney. If the county attorney doesn't do it, you go to the Commonwealth attorney. So that's the hierarchy, right? Cop, commanding officer, county attorney, Commonwealth's attorney. And then if they still don't do it, you could sue. You could go to small claims court, right? Just press your own charges. And you could also have a grand jury indictment, which usually that's run by the prosecution, but a grand jury indictment is that's pretty, you know, pretty big indictment, right? So it's like saying, it's actually nothing really. They say there's a saying you can indict a ham sandwich, which you can't really indict a ham sandwich because, well, you're going to throw a ham sandwich in jail. You know, what are you going to find a ham sandwich? But they're saying that a grand jury can indict anybody, and the indictment just says that there was probable cause for something happening, and then after the indictment of a grand jury, it goes on to the real jury. And so actually, I like the whole grand jury aspect of it because it requires some sort of like pre-trial trial, right? So it's just basically a quick little thing. We all set up. Was there a crime that had happened? Is there a probable cause for a crime? If so, we're going to push it for a jury trial, and let's see what happens there. So one party will go find an ombudsman, ask for an ombudsman's case. Often all the ombudsman has to do is warn someone to stop causing the nuisance. If the dispute is more complex, ombudsman must mediate. The conflict cannot be resolved there and then, or the ombudsman's warning or ignored. The case can be brought before the school meeting. And that's again the town hall meeting. I think that's the best way actually to have those two together. I absolutely resent Gallatin County because they had a judge there that did not care about what the actual issues of the case was. You know, the fact that somebody could just say he's guilty, and then the judge is like, well, it says that he's guilty right here, so no, that's not enough. And even if it's a police officer, the police officer says, well, you know, he says you're guilty, so, and then it's bullshit. It's such bullshit. And then there's also in Grant County, there's a woman there, and she was just like, oh, it's good that you're afraid of your father. It's good that you're afraid. No, it's not good. That is a horrible thing. It's a horrible way. He tried to murder me, but if I was to swing a golf club at her face and try to murder her, she would think that's incorrect. That's wrong. But she can ignore what I have to say. She can ignore my experiences. She can roll her eyes and treat me with all the disrespect in the world because, you know, she's like Judge Judy, right? Oh, this is a show. Here's my show. I could, like, make jokes about this person and that person. No, quit doing the making joke stuff. Look for the actual thing and see if there's a real crime that had happened. There was a man in Trimble County that had actually looked at the police officer, looked at me, and was like, so what had happened? What had happened? And he actually got the story from both of us, and he determined what he thought was true. He couldn't determine whether or not there was enough evidence provided by the state, and therefore the case was thrown out. There was a case, LMPD, with the police brutality case, which is why I have reconstructive surgery. 2.5 years ago. But for a year and a half, at no point did the prosecution or the police officers or anybody say, well, what happened? You know, what happened? Was there justice or was there not justice that had actually taken place? And I even had a chance, but I had lawyers that just wanted to manipulate me and just kind of treat me like a slave dog instead of advising me and being an advocate for me. They just wanted to be like, oh, I got power over you and fuck you. You know, that ruins the relationship. Will to power ruins the relationship. So that's what's going to happen from now on. I'm going to explain to the lawyers, you advocate for me, you advise me, but you don't control me. I am my own person. And so, whatever. That's our judicial system. And so our judicial system, the police officer can basically arrest whoever they want to arrest, or the grand jury can arrest whoever they want to arrest. The commanding officer and the county attorney and the Commonwealth attorney, they all can issue some sort of warrant for a person's arrest. But eventually, I think there has to be, for felonies, they have to go through a grand jury hearing, which I don't even understand. Actually, I guess a felony can really take a person's life away. But a grand jury, I just think is a great idea because instead of having the cop, because I mean, why have a grand jury? Like if you have a police officer that can just arrive on the scene and say, hey, you're guilty, and that's it. He's the judge, jury, and executioner. Sometimes cops, they have all the power in the world. I get so nervous around a police officer, and then when they're cocky and they're shitty, they look like they want to put their hands on me. It's socially unacceptable to hit a woman, right? Don't ever hit a woman, but you can beat the shit out of a man. And I've seen instances like, you know, I was with my girlfriend, and she's arguing with a man, and he was like, if you don't shut your mouth, I'm going to hit your boyfriend in the face. I should have just knocked him out right then, right? But that's such bullshit. He's basically admitting that it's socially unacceptable to hit a woman, but it's completely okay to hit a man. No, I don't like this man shit around here. I don't like how men are beating each other up. I don't like men's restroom, how it's disgusting and dirty, and then go to prison, you get raped all the time, go sent to war, you get your head blown off. All they want to do is talk about pussy, pussy, pussy. And yeah, I love sex and I love women and stuff, but that's so shallow. They have probably more issues than women do because they don't talk about their feelings. They're not actually supposed to have any feelings. The only feelings they're allowed to have is anger, and they're not even really allowed to have anger. Yeah, they have to be like cool and calm when they knock everybody out. And so basically, there's just all alpha male bullshit around here. Whereas it seems like with women, women love women, men love women. Women like, you know, all around the world, women are having to deal with a lot of issues. But in America, there's not the rape and the domestic violence that's happening. There's no female circumcisions. There's male circumcisions. You know, they're cutting the tips of the penises off here in America, but they're not doing anything to the women. The Ku Klux Klan defended the women. So, no, I don't. I'm a feminist. I believe in equality, and I only hope to get equality. God, I hope if I have a wife and kids then she can stand up for me when a cop is sitting there saying, I want to hit you, I want to hit you, and I want to throw you in jail, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to throw you in jail, and I'm going to ruin your life. Well, you know, now a woman's in your face. You're going to hit the woman? What are you going to do with the woman? She's right there in your face. What you going to do, cop? You're a man and she's a woman. You can't talk to her. You can't do nothing with her. You're a big man there and you're going to manhandle a woman. So that's you know, that's if I have a wife and kids, I don't think it's that crazy. Actually, I go to Haiti because I was like, man, nobody gives a damn about me on this planet. If I had a wife, maybe somebody would actually give a crap. But that wife has got to love me. If she don't love me, then that whole plan, it basically backfires on me, because if she's crapping on me and using me as a target and laughing at me, then I'm gonna die every day because I love somebody that don't love me back. And then she's also gonna ruin my reputation by telling everybody, hey, he's an asshole. Don't respect him. Fuck this guy. He's an asshole. No, absolutely not. That's not, you know, that if I need, you know, it'd been so much easier if I was gay. I think it'd be easier. I don't know. But yeah, so okay, so let's carry on with the conflict resolution. This is all about the judicial proceedings and how just fucked it is. We supposedly have you know, balance of powers, executive, legislative, judicial, but really it's all judicial. That's all it is. The legislative can write the laws, but the laws, you know, it takes forever to write a law, and even when it gets passed, who knows who enforces it? People can have, like, you know, just protest against it and not want it to be enforced. The executive branch is the one who enforces the laws. But what does that mean? Again, you know, that the sheriff can arrest the one who enforces the laws. That means the sheriff is the enforcer of the law. So the sheriff is actually the executive. The judicial branch is sort of taking over the executive and the legislature. They're making the rules, they're making the laws, they're creating policy right there, you know, at the cop car. I got a badge, I got a hat, I'm making policy as I go. Policy is supposed to be created by the legislature, and the executive is supposed to be the one that enforces the policy. And then the police officers are more, you know, officers of the system, of the court and of the executive branch. So there's definitely a problem with the way American democracy. I mean, we don't even have a real democracy, right? So that's clearly wrong. We don't have any type of democracies. And I'm not sure people understand their rights when it comes to jury trial. Really, the prosecution, the judge, in Kentucky, you can plead no contest. So it's called an Alford's plea. You don't have to say you're guilty, but you can admit that there's enough evidence to convict you. You should always do an Alford's plea. At no point in life should you ever admit guilt. You should never say that you're guilty. That's Gatewood's Galbraith. If people could just not tell them themselves, they would be able to get away with so much more, and you know, get away with, right? But sometimes when the police officer's job is to look for trouble, so if you go up to them and you're like, you know, hey, I didn't do nothing, you know, I was just hanging outside, and yeah, I have all this stash of heroin inside my house, but you know, it's not bothering anybody. Bam, you're done. That's all they needed, was you to admit that you had committed a crime, and now they can fuck up your life. And so that sucks. I would feel more safe without the police being on the street. I think the police set the example. The police said that it's violence is right, might makes right. You go in, you're the head honcho, just like in Boone County. The cop comes up there and basically just was, hey, I'm the man in this show, you know, I'm the cowboy at this rodeo, and you guys are gonna do as I say. And then a sober woman drives away after someone else had driven away, and he jumps over on the car and shoots her about 4 times in the chest. So they get all cocky and get all crazy with their power, you know, and they didn't need to do that. They could have just let their presence disperse the crowd. What's the problem? They're being loud and you need it to be dispersed. You don't need to be in people's faces yelling at them. Just show up, let them all leave. Done. Problem solved. But I guess if you want to get a hard on by yelling at people and being a crappy dickhead to people, then, you know, and then who called? Like, really, were they actually bothering anybody? I've been to field parties before, and we weren't bothering any person. So yeah, that's judicial proceedings. That's I like the idea of a grand jury. I think that should be kind of sort of discussed. I like the idea of an ombudsman, sort of the middle person that says that's the person you go to for your complaints. So you know, if I have a complaint, instead of having to convince a police officer that doesn't give a crap about me, LMPD, I got robbed twice. I know who robbed me both times, but no charges was filed on these people. So, I mean, what's the point of having the police officers? They'll beat you up if you just walk down the street and they don't like the way you look, or if they don't like how you disrespected them. But if you have an actual crime happen to you, they don't do anything about it. So if they'll believe a white woman's lies over a white man's truth any day of the week. White women have all the power, and they should extend their privilege to the entire world. It is socially unacceptable to hit a woman. It should be socially unacceptable to hit anybody. That is not cool. I watched let's see, I Love New York, right? Flavor of Love, Flavor Flav in New York, and she had they were boxing for her, and she was like, oh, it turns me on how they're fighting for me. Oh, and so that's what it's all about. Men are fighting over the woman, and then men get thrown in jail, and then that's I'm not. If I have to be a fighter, I'm a fighter. I have to protect my wife and kids. I protect my wife and kids. But in terms of actually wanting to, go out there and flex my muscles and say I'm the biggest head honcho out here, no, absolutely not. We need to just have a. Why can't we just respect each other? If I do no harm to you and you do no harm to me, but the cops show us that might makes right. You got to be a head honcho. They're the government. They set the example. And, for good or ill, they set the example. So when the police officers say, this is the way we do things, we go in there, we yell, we use violence, and that's how we take care of business. They're showing the people exactly how to do it. When the cops are inept, then that just leaves you to your own devices. That means basically you have no protection with society, and you have to defend yourself. And what's the best way to defend yourself when you got hoodlums that's acting like the police? They're acting like the police because they, get away with anything. They can break into your house. They can take your stuff. They can beat you up. It doesn't matter. So you have to look over your back for the criminals. You have to look over your back for the police. It's a ridiculous system. It's such bullshit system. So that's why I think a town hall meeting, instead of having a sort of enclosed, like, okay, a judge had made this decision and nobody is a part of it, nobody knows what's going on, it should be part of the town hall meeting. It should be it takes a village to raise everybody. And people want to say, well, I own my kids. You don't own your kids. It's a catch and release program. Eventually, when they're 18, they're going to have to make it out on their own. And if your kid is bullying my kid, or if your kid is shooting up the school, that's a problem for all of society. If you're ruining your kid's life because you want to beat them up, so I'm kind of mixing a lot of different things up, but that's that goes to the whole Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow's hierarchy. We're supposed to sit there and teach kids, calculus, but they're at home getting beat up. So what does it matter if they're getting beat up at home? All your lessons about calculus will fall on deaf ears. A.S. Neal, he's a Scottish educator, author, known for a school, Summerhill Schools. His philosophies for freedom from adult coercion and community self-governance. There was actually that community, let's see, the class, school, community pipeline with the one of the schools. Let's see, the class, community, Reggio Emilia. They believe that class is a part of school, is a part of the community, and so that's of course that's true, right? And so that's what I blame it public education for not helping out with the public ills. The public education, if you was to take the kids and say, okay, kids, what do you think, and just have a class of, I don't know, civic engagement or something, and just have the class say, okay, we're all going to look at society, and then we're going to say, here's where we're at, and here's where we want to be. And then we'll make a list of what it is. We'll actually internally look at ourselves with an objective viewpoint, and then we will move on to where we want to be. Okay, so I like the West End. I think is a good example. I just came out of the West End, and it was rough. It was bullshit. It just seemed like it was just cutthroat fucking bullshitness. I mean, it might have been just the racism, but it just seemed to me like there's a lot of issues there that's happening. Actually, it doesn't even matter. We could do South Louisville because there's thieving happening there, and guns and prostitutes and crime that was happening there. So there's crime happening, all over the communities. So we don't have to talk about specific ones, but the whole idea is just bringing solving the ills of the community through the school system, so the children are actually looking at what they need. And I think that's a very powerful statement when the children say, well, we don't have good enough schools, we have cracked windows, and we need better supplies. We're being robbed all the time, and we're not safe. That's my God, you can't make a more profound statement than that. So I think if they had the kids actually do an introspective look at the community and everybody around them, they would come up with the most genius things ever, right? They're like the freedom riters. But instead of doing that, all you got is a bunch of dictator teachers, white teachers saying, this is true, that's not true, that's not true. What'd you say, little Sally? You lay your head down again, I'm going to throw you an ice after. I'm going to call your parents, and she's going to beat you up. I'm going to make sure your mama beats you up. Now, you better listen to me. I'm the boss around here. I'm the dictator. I'm the autocratic dictator person, and you better, totalitarian fascism is here. That's how, respect the fascism. It's normalized. I'm the boss, you're the slaves. Don't everybody have an independent opinion. All the people that speak are those who blindly kiss my butt. Those are the only people that I will respect. And so that's why when you come up to a nice person, you automatically think they're weak. No, that doesn't. Those are not congruous with each other. Being nice, in fact, it might be the exact opposite. I think I should be as crazy, as crazy, I guess, as I want to be when it comes to defending my niceness. I'm a good person out here, and I don't do any harm to others. But you want to harm me? You want to hurt me? What's the point of you hurting me? Why is that so important to you? And you want to hurt me when I was nice to you? How dare you? Curtis Stewart, Elizabeth Rogers, Julie Chancellor. These people are like, I did nothing to them. I done nothing to them, but they get a hard on, they get a boner, and they just want to hurt you, and that's it. They want to hurt you, and that's it. So they get all amped up, and they say, let's rob this mother, and then they do it. Okay, so Summerhill Schools, Summerhill and Sudbury, I think, are really identical when it comes to sort of democracies. I think actually getting all the Sudbury schools and Summerhill schools on some sort of pipeline about how do you work with this thing, how do you work with this thing, I think those are good ideas, because I like the idea of a town hall meeting. I like the idea of democracy and the Constitution, and having different branches of government. I like judicial and legislative being part of the town hall meeting. I like the ombudsman. The grand jury thing, I want to consider it, because a grand jury is sort of like the jury before the jury, and so I think it maybe, I don't know, I think a grand jury that should be the first step. The ombudsman is the first step, and then the grand jury is the second step, and then after the grand jury says that it's something, then it should go to the town hall meeting. And the town hall meeting is the judicial, that is the end all, solve all place. That's where it gets handled, right there. And you can say, bring your witness statements, bring your evidence, but you do it right then and there. And you got to, you got to defend your case. You got to defend yourself. You also have, your human rights, and bring a judge. So that's exactly, I just figured it out, and that's how I think it should be. So A.S. Neal is the educational theorist. He taught several schools across the country, joined the staff. I guess it doesn't really matter. He has a book called Summerhill. It was a compilation of 4 previous books about his school. The book was a common ancestor to activists in the 1960s free school movement. Freedom School is what I'm doing right now. This is all under Freedom School, but eventually I'd like for a physical building to be obtained, and for the postmodern school for revolutionaries. So the postmodern revolutionaries. School for the Postmodern Revolutionaries. Actually, that might be School for Postmodern Revolutionaries. School for the Postmodern Revolutionaries. That's great. I like that, because I keep on getting confused, postmodern and revolutionary. So School for the Postmodern Revolutionaries. The free school movement, also new schools, alternative schools. This is during the 1960s. A lot of it had to do with, I want to say, black schools. I don't know. Child-centered progressive education, modern schools, freedom schools. Movement included Paul Goodman, Herb Cole, Jonathan Kozol, James Herndon. Definition and scope of schools self-classifies free schools and their associated movement were never clearly delineated. There's free schools, anarchist schools. There was like some sort of free school that had in Bloomington, Indiana. There's a website. I'm not sure if they still do it, but basically anybody could teach anything they want to, and anybody could come learn. And it failed, so you have to be financed, and it's got to be taken serious. But the idea was you can educate in the streets, you can educate in the houses, you can educate at the parks, you can educate everywhere. Anywhere you want to have an education session, it can happen at any point, right? In fact, that's how you actually teach. Like, if you want to teach farming, here's how you cultivate. You actually get out in the field to teach how to cultivate. If you want to teach whatever, gun control or gun safety, you actually have to have a weapon, right? And you have to be out in the forest or some safe spot. So that's the Freedom School, I think, is an incredible idea. That's Summerhill. When you start thinking, Summerhill is the ideal. It's the ideal. I have all these other schools here, but I keep on coming back to the Summerhill and Sudbury, because it has all the things that you need. I have anarchist leanings, but essentially I do think that we're a community who needs to take care of each other. So I'm not a communist in the sense of I'm not a Leninist or a Trotskyist or a Stalinist, I guess I'm like 75% of a Marxist. So Marx doesn't totally have me, but the idea that we're all in this together, it takes a village, and that we should care about one another. Yes, of course that's true. People don't have to care about anybody else. So if they want to be selfish, that's cool. So really, it might be just a place for me to kind of tie everybody together. But there needs to be somebody that always does that, and somebody that's good and cares about others. Violence. I don't know. It just the judicial system and what is right and wrong, it seems like people go with the powerful position instead of actually listening to principles, and that is so true. The idea that you need to be bound to reasoning and rationality when it comes to principles, of course that's true. If you don't have a moral core and you don't believe, you haven't thought about what's right and what's not right, if you're just getting away with anything and everything that you can without, just hoping that nobody hurts you for doing the things that you do, then that's you're immoral. You're an immoral savage. This is the reason why we have psychos. This is the reason why people stab each other in the back, and there's so many insane behaviors out here because people have no moral core. They have nothing at all. They don't care about anybody. And so we need to have principles and morality. That needs to be a part of the discussion. And so that's why, Catholic schools, they talk about morals. Reggio Emilia, there's talk about morals. And I would like to think at Sudbury and Summer School there'd be a talk about morals too. So the free school movement, I think a lot of it had to do with the black schools. There was segregation that was going on, and so there was some sort of free school movement where they were actually getting voters registered. Like we have a 30%. Just any school really would be better than any of the schools we have here in Kentucky. The school was they would register people to vote, and so we have 30% of the people right now that go out to turn out for the voting thing, but that's it. So we got 30%, and so 70% of people aren't even participating in their government. Does that mean they think that government is working so well that they don't need to participate? Maybe they think that their vote doesn't matter because it's one vote and it doesn't really matter. And so that's a problem. That's a problem. If they're not even voting is the very least you can do. So if you're not even voting, you're not doing anything. You're not getting together with others. You're not having deliberative processes. You're either just being a follower to someone else, or you're being a boss, or you're being a hermit. You're not being a part of the community, and that's horrible. We're supposed to be the beacon on the hill. We're supposed to be showing everybody. That isn't like this. America is not like this. Kentucky can be so much better and different than what it actually is. Okay, there's so many third world country standards here, and we can do better. We need the truth right now. I think it's most important that we have the truth. All right, so I'm going to keep on going with the Summerhill, the ombudsman. Often all the ombudsman has to do is warn people to stop causing a nuisance. Sometimes if the dispute is more complex, then they must mediate. If it can't be resolved there, then it goes to the school meeting. Now, that's in front of everybody, and so I think that having the grand jury thing is actually a good thing to sort of have. Okay, ombudsman, they try to mediate. If the ombudsman if they can't do it, then it goes to the grand jury, and if the grand jury doesn't do it, and then it goes to the school meeting. So the grand jury will determine if there is something that is, big enough, and I think the grand jury should try to sort of resolve the thing too. And if they can't resolve it, then the actual punitive damages comes from the school meeting. And by giving these judges in these courthouses all this power, they're held to account to nobody. They're above everybody, and they're held to account to nobody, and that's not right. So there probably is a chair who's going to run the town hall meeting, but that's not the judge. Ultimately, it'd be the community. It would be the judge, and it'd be by, I guess, majority vote. So it could be tyranny of the majority. So I guess we got to be worried about that. I don't know who would protect the people, the minority, from getting. The minority has their say, but the majority get their way, and that's how democracies work. So really, you got to get people on board. Not defend your person, but defend your behavior or their behavior. Chastise how they're behaving. So sometimes the meeting assigns an individual their own special ombudsman, an ombudsman who only takes cases from one person. This usually happens if a particular child is being consistently bullied or has problems with the language. So they could have their own special ombudsman so that it'll stop the bullying, or have their own like little private security guard. The tribunal is a school meeting which concerns itself with people who break the school rules. So that's interesting. They said that before the school meeting or the town hall meeting was the tribunal. Sometimes there's a separate meeting for the tribunal, and sometimes the legislative and judicial meetings are combined. This in itself is a matter that can be decided by the meeting. A tribunal case consists of one person bringing up another or a group of people. The person bringing the case states the problem. The chairperson asks those accused if they did it, and if they have anything to say, then they calls for any witnesses. If the accused admits to the offense, if there are reliable witness statements, the chair will call for proposals. Otherwise, the floor is open to discussion. So that's how it works, right? So I'll just say all that again. If the person bringing the case states the problem, the chairperson asks if those accused, if they did it, right? So Billy stole my money. Did you steal the money? No. Okay. Well, do you have anything to say? And you call any witnesses on your behalf. I think I saw this person, this person was with me all night. I got an alibi. And no, I saw him do it, and I saw him do it. So you got two people say he saw him do it, and then he says there's an alibi, but the alibi isn't in the room, so we can't actually verify it. Actually, let's say that there is an alibi, and they say that they was with them all night. So now you got a difference of opinion, right? So now if the accused admits to the offense or there are reliable witness statements. So if it looks like there's guilty, they're guilty, then they'll call for proposals. But I think a proposal actually should be called for anyways. What should we do about this? There's two different witness statements. He says that this person was with them, and they said that these people were with them. So what do we do? Do you just call their side a liar, right? That he could have not been around there, right? Billy could have not have stole the thing. It could have been Tommy, or it could have been Sally, right? So, and then proposals are made. So I think actually the proposals are the best part, because if guilt cannot be determined, if there is a question of guilt, right, because that's the court of law is to beyond a reasonable doubt. If guilt cannot be determined, then another proposal will be like, well, what can we do about this? If they are not guilty, then you can't punish them for not doing something. And so that's tough, actually. It's a tough situation. Justice, you don't want to see it get made, but really that's it. One person says their side, the other person says their side. They have witnesses, they got evidence, and then the people decide what they think, happened and did not happen. And so I think there should be some sort of a vote. A vote. What happened? Is he guilty or not guilty? And if it's guilty, then they call for proposals on how, in order to change it. If there's no clear evidence as to who is guilty, an unobserved theft investigation committee can be appointed. There you go, an investigation committee. And then they will come back with their findings, right? Investigation, and they can't be biased one way or the other. Investigation committee. God, I'm loving this stuff, okay? Because this seems like this is all stuff that the judicial system doesn't even try to do. So investigation committee is appointed. Investigation committee has the power to search people's rooms or lockers and to question people. They will bring the case back to the next meeting if they're able to obtain any new evidence. In a community as small as Summerhill, few events go totally unnoticed, and matters are usually resolved quickly. So the investigation committee, power to search people's rooms or lockers, the power to question, and then the next meeting, they if they're able to obtain new evidence, they say what had happened. So I think that's the best way to do it. And then it comes down to a vote. Are they guilty or not? If they're guilty, then they have to suffer whatever consequences. And it sucks that you have to kind of go through all this, but the fact that there is a process, there is no process now. I call the police. I don't believe the police will do anything for anybody. If I'm getting robbed by, it doesn't matter. I can't even. Malcolm X Debate Club says that I'm privileged and I'm living on the top, but a black person robs me, they get away with it. White women rob me, they get away with it. They stole $50,000. These white women did, and we can do whatever we want to do because we're just better than everybody, And then that's bullshit. That's such bullshit. Black man, the cops are on my side. What are they going to do? I've been lying to cops my whole life, so. They sit there and say that I'm the one that's privileged on top. Get the fuck out of here. They're not fucking privileged whatso fucking ever. Whatso fucking ever. It's a bullshit. So they're putting this privilege on me that I don't even have, This has turned out to be long. I even got to the Sudbury model schools. And so actually, I don't know. I guess to have a good democratic schools, it's good to look at not just one democratic school, but several democratic schools. This isn't just my idea. This is democracy. Liberal democracies have taken over the world because that people would rather be governed by themselves than governed by others. And so the idea of a democracy is taken over, but like we don't actually govern ourselves still, right? We got a nanosecond of democracy in America, just a lightning bolt, just a flash of democracy, and then we go back to our stations as worker bees while the people that we just chose rule over us. So let's keep on going on with this. I like the judicial proceedings of Summerhill School because there's no due process. That's another thing too. At U of L, Xavier University, or at Spalding University. Basically, if they wanted to fuck you over, then they could. If they didn't, they didn't. Basically, it was based upon like one or two people's decisions. It was whether or not they was going to show mercy or not. So once it had been established that a person has broken the rules, the meeting must propose and then vote to decide a fine. For most school rules, there is a standard fine mandated for breaking them, somewhat equivalent to a judge's sentencing guidelines, but a different fine can be proposed. Fines can include strong warning, administered by the chair, monetary fine, loss of privileges, not being allowed out of school or being the last to be served lunch, work fine, picking up litter for a set time. So really anything, right? Case of theft is usually considered sufficient for the thief to return what was stolen, although there are some rare cases that the property stolen is no longer in the possession of the thief. In these cases, the thief is given one or two more serious fines, and the question as to where the property has been sent. When it comes to stealing, I mean, I think the fact that you made the person go through all these proceedings and had to build all these witness statements and all this stuff, it's ridiculous. I mean, you should be allowed to exist and walk around without being robbed. So a lot of times I think justice is an eye for an eye. If someone steals something, then they should, pay equal or something comparable back. If they don't do that, though, if they don't do that, then I think there should be something a little bit more to make sure that there's a deterrent for even doing it. You don't want to throw the book at them. It needs to be just, right? If you stole something from somebody else, then what you need to do, and there are also some reasons behind it. Are you poor? I mean, did you need the bread? Did you need something to eat? That seems to be more justifiable than I'm just having fun out here, right? I'm just doing my thing. So your Elizabeth Rogers of the world, and your Curtis Stewarts, and your Bond, whatever that Bond guy's name is, Derek Bond, all your Derek Bonds, Curtis Stewarts, and Elizabeth Rogers of the world, they steal people from others, and they get no, punishment whatsoever. So in order to get justice, I have to call this person and get that person and get that person. Basically, I'll go through the entire process and then I'll still lose. And so not only did I lose my property, and then I try to get some justice, but I lost that too. So I lost all the time. I lost all the things. My God, why can't I just be me and exist in this world without having to deal with all this extra bullshit? So that's why I like having a clear complaint and judicial proceedings that you can follow. So there's ombudsman, there's grand jury, there's class, school, community. Or wait, that's something different. But that's there's investigative committee, right? So yeah, that was really fun. It's getting to be to the end here. So there's educational structure, boarding houses, some other things. Neil was more concerned with the social development of children with their academic than their academic development, so he wants actually them to be more sociable. Summerhill nevertheless has some important differences in its approach to teaching. There's no concept of a year or form. At Summerhill, instead, children are placed according to their ability in a given subject. It's not uncommon for a single class to have pupils of varying ages, or for pupils as young as 13 or 14 to take the GCSE examinations. This structure represents a belief that children should progress at their own pace rather than having to meet a set standard by a certain age. There are two classes which operate on a drop-in basis for all part of the day, the workshop and the art room. Anyone who comes to class supervisions. Okay, so they have that's the educational structure. Something I want to mention too. I think there should be like the AP exams, the AP test to get college credit. I think those are like good indicators of whether or not the teachers are able to teach these different subjects. If you get an AP test, then you can go on to college, and then I guess I don't even know what the point of college is at all. Like, I mean, education. There's no point to the education world at all. It was basically to ruin your reputation if you have a soul, or to smash your soul and to make sure that you become a totalitarian fascist psychopath just like them. So I don't even know what the point of school is, to make you a psychopath or to make you a follower. That doesn't help you at all in life. Sometimes people says it makes you like us, so therefore if you went to school, then oh, you're like me, but that's not exactly true either. So I don't know what school. There seems to be really no justification for school unless it was like to help you in your career, get a better job, to sort of get a community that you hadn't had. So I think a Summerhill type of college would make sense for 4 years, or a St. John's College for 4 years. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to run things. And so it's an enclosed, space where we're only kind of running ourselves, but we are part of the greater community, and we also recognize that too. So it can really the school for the postmodern revolutionaries it can take lots of different it can take lots of different forms, and and so I think all these are all important questions, right? These are all important questions because if a person comes in for a year and they want to transfer, can they transfer those credits? And I would like to think that they have actual like traditional classes that could transfer to some other school. But I would also like to think that a credit from the school for the postmodern revolutionaries would actually be a more powerful credit than Harvard or something else. So if there's a person who went through a U.S. history class, then they have a solid foundation of the U.S. history. They have an idea of the major eras of it, the major events, and you know, from the beginning to the end, so they could sort of talk about each era and a lot of different things. So I would like to think that they could pass that AP test, and I think the AP test is sort of an objective sort of standard. It's a multiple choice, right? And there's some problems with multiple choice, and just like with the open responses and oral exams, there's clear problems with it. But the I don't know, to get a college credit, that seems to be ideal. But what's the point of college? Why get a college credit? So I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe there should be a connection there. Why do we go to college? Why do we learn history? To write a book? To understand our world? To love our country? I don't know. So I'm gonna come back to Sudbury schools right after this. So this was just Summerhill, not Sudbury.